Hey everyone, ready for deep dive. Today we're tackling the connection between probiotics and cancer.
Definitely a fascinating area with so much potential.
It is, and we're digging into a 2020 scientific review for this one.
Oh, wow, going way
Yeah,
back.
well, the research is always building on itself, so gotta look back sometimes, to go forward.
Absolutely makes sense. So which review is it?
It's called Probiotics for Cancer, Alternative Prevention and Treatment from Biomedicine and Pharmacotherapy.
Catchy title. I like it.
Right. So we're going to try to find the gems in here and break it all down for you.
Those nuggets of insight.
Exactly. And to start, I think it's important to kind of acknowledge how serious cancer is, right?
Absolutely. It's a huge global health issue.
Yeah, in 2017, it was the second leading cause of death worldwide.
Really puts it into perspective how crucial it is to find new ways to prevent and treat it.
For sure. And that's kind of where probiotics come in, potentially offering a less toxic and more targeted approach.
Yeah, there's a lot of excitement around that.
But before we get ahead of ourselves, maybe we should take a step back and define probiotics.
Good point. Probiotics are basically live, non-pathogenic microbes that provide health benefits when you eat enough of them.
So good bacteria.
Exactly. Think of them like friendly reinforcements for your gut.
Okay, so we're talking about more than just yogurt here.
Oh yeah, way more.
Like what?
We've got fermented foods like cheese or even pomegranate juice.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know pomegranate juice was a probiotic.
It can be.
Yeah.
And then you have specific strains like Lactobacillus and Bifidobacterium.
Those sound familiar.
They're pretty common ones.
Yeah.
You also have certain yeasts like Saccharomyces, Cerevisiae var, Boulardier.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
It is. But the point is there's a whole diverse army of these little helpers.
Each with their own superpowers.
Exactly. Now the question is, how do they actually fight something as complex as cancer?
Yeah, that's what I want to know.
Well, it all starts with your gut microbiome, those trillions of microbes living in your gut,
Right, keeping everything in balance.
right? And probiotics can actually change the composition of that microbiome.
Interesting. So you're saying our gut health is really that important?
Absolutely. It's connected to both our diet and the development of cancer.
Wow, so it's like a whole ecosystem within us.
Precisely. And here's another cool thing. Prebiotics, those non-digestible fibers we hear about, actually act as food for probiotics.
Oh, really? Like giving them a power-up?
Exactly. So it's not just about taking probiotics, but also making sure they have what they need to thrive.
That makes a lot of sense. So are we ready to dive into how these little guys can fight cancer?
Let's do it. This is where things get really interesting.
I'm all ears.
So first of all, some probiotics are great at binding to and breaking down carcinogens.
Carcinogens being those things that can cause cancer?
Exactly. They're like little cleanup crews neutralizing those threats.
That's pretty impressive. So they're getting rid of the bad stuff before it can even cause problems.
Precisely. For example, Lactobacillus rhamnosus GG, which you find in a lot of probiotic yogurts, targets heterocyclic amine. Those are carcinogens that form when you grill meat.
Oh, so like when you're having a barbecue.
Yep. It's like having a tiny bodyguard in your gut during BBQ season.
Okay, that's a good way to put it. I'm definitely going to need some extra probiotics at my next barbecue.
Probably a good idea. But that's just one way probiotics can help.
What else can they do?
Well, they can also stimulate your immune system.
So helping our bodies fight off those cancer cells.
You got it. Studies show that certain probiotics can help our bodies better recognize and destroy cancer cells.
So they're like giving our immune system a boost.
Exactly. Like, for example, in one study, Lactobacillus acidophilus was shown to activate natural killer cells in a breast cancer model.
Natural killer cells being...
They're key players in anti-tumor immunity. They seek out and destroy those rogue cancer cells.
Wow. So it's like probiotics are giving our immune system the intel it needs to fight back.
Precisely. And then there's the amazing power of apoptosis.
Apoptosis.
Yeah, it's basically programmed cell death.
Oh, right. Like the cells are told to self-destruct.
Exactly. And certain probiotics can actually trigger this process in cancer cells.
That's incredible. It's like they have a built-in kill switch for those harmful cells.
It is pretty amazing.
Ah.
And there's research to back this up. For example, one study found that Lactobacillus casei increased the levels of a molecule called TRAIL.
And trail does what?
Well, TRAIL leads to apoptosis in colon cancer cells. It's a very targeted approach, directly disrupting those harmful cells.
So it's not just about boosting the immune system in general. They have some very specific tactics.
Absolutely. And then we have short-chain fatty acids, or SCFAs as we like to call them.
Okay, what are those?
These are produced by probiotics during fermentation, and they have their own anti-cancer effects.
So it's like they're producing their own little weapons.
Exactly. And one study showed that SCFAs produced by Propionibacterium freudenreichi actually damaged colorectal cancer cells in vitro,
In vitro meaning?
in a lab setting.
Yeah.
Basically, they were able to stop those cancer cells from growing.
Wow. So it's like a multi-pronged attack. They're not just doing one thing. They have a whole arsenal.
Exactly. And it gets even more interesting because research shows that even dead probiotics and their components can have anti-cancer effects.
Wait, what? Dead probiotics? How is that possible?
I know it sounds strange, right? But researchers believe that in some cases, dead probiotics are more easily taken up by the immune system.
So they're still doing something even though they're not alive.
Exactly. And this can actually lead to a stronger immune response against those cancer cells.
That is mind-blowing. It completely changes the game.
It really does.
Yeah.
And we've only just scratched the surface of what these little warriors are capable of.
I'm hooked. This is also promising. But I'm guessing we still have a long way to go before probiotics become a mainstream cancer treatment.
Yeah, you're right. The preclinical research is very encouraging, but we need more human clinical trials.
Right. We need to see how it all works in people.
Exactly. We need that solid evidence before we can start making any big claims.
Makes sense. But there are some promising clinical trial findings already, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Mhm.
There's some really interesting things coming out of those trials.
I'm dying to hear about them.
We'll get to those in just a moment. But first, let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture.
Okay, sounds good. What kind of impact could probiotics have on the future of cancer care?
Well, just imagine. Just imagine a future where your doctor could prescribe a personalized probiotic cocktail tailored to your specific cancer type and your unique gut microbiome.
Wow, that sounds pretty futuristic.
That's right. But it's not as sci-fi as you might think. We're already seeing hints of this in some clinical trials.
Oh, really? Tell me more.
Okay, so for instance, one study in Japan looked at the link between diet and breast cancer risk. And they found that women who regularly drank a yogurt drink with Lactobacillus casei shirota had a lower risk of breast cancer.
Interesting. So just a yogurt drink could make a difference.
Well, it was specifically when they combined it with soy isoflavones.
Okay, so maybe it's the combination that's key?
Could be. It's definitely worth exploring further. And there's another trial, a really rigorous one, that looked at the effects of a probiotic mixture on patients who had surgery for colorectal cancer.
So people who already had cancer and had it removed.
Exactly. And they found that the probiotics actually reduced the levels of certain inflammatory molecules called cytokines.
Cytokines being...
They're signaling molecules that play a role in inflammation, which, can contribute to cancer.
So it's like the probiotics were helping to calm things down.
Exactly. Reducing that inflammatory environment that cancer can thrive in.
That's fascinating. And what about those dead probiotics? We're talking about how they can still have an effect.
Right. Well, in one study, dead Lactobacillus plantarum was actually better at inhibiting colon cancer in mice than live bacteria.
Seriously, how does that even work?
Researchers think that the dead bacteria were more easily absorbed by the immune system.
Interesting. So they were kind of like sacrificing themselves to trigger a stronger immune response.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder if we can harness that power in other ways, maybe even beyond just eating probiotics.
Right, like isolating those components that are doing the work.
Exactly. And that's where a lot of the research is heading. Scientists are starting to isolate and study things like exopolysaccharides, those complex sugars.
Right, we talked about those earlier.
Yeah, and they're looking at proteins too,
Yeah.
seeing if they can be developed into targeted therapies.
So it's not just about yogurt anymore. It's about identifying those specific components and turning them into potential treatments.
Precisely. And then there are the probiotic metabolites.
Metabolites.
Yeah, those are the byproducts that probiotics produce as they go about their business.
So it's like their waste products are beneficial too.
It is. Some of these metabolites have really amazing anti-cancer properties.
Okay, now I'm really curious. What are some examples?
Well, one study showed that SCFAs produced by Propionibacterium freudenreichi actually damaged colorectal adenocarcinoma cells,
And adenocarcinoma is...
a type of cancer that starts in glandular tissue, like in the colon.
Okay, got it. So these SCFAs were basically stopping the cancer cells from growing.
Exactly. And then there's ferrochrome, which is a siderophore produced by Lactobacillus casei.
Cider what?
A siderophore. It's basically a molecule that binds to iron.
Oh, okay. And why is that important?
Well, in one study, ferrochrome actually showed a stronger cancer suppressive effect on colorectal cancer cells than some chemo drugs.
What?
Yeah, it was pretty remarkable.
Huh.
And what's even more interesting is that it didn't seem to have as much of an effect on healthy cells.
So it was more targeted.
Exactly. This
Right.
is what we want, right? Less damage to healthy tissue.
Absolutely. This is incredible stuff. It seems like probiotic metabolites have huge potential as future therapies.
They do.
Yeah.
But of course, we still need more research, more clinical trials to see how it all works in humans.
Right. It's still early days.
It is.
Ah.
But it's exciting to see where this research is going.
I agree. So what are some of the challenges that researchers are facing as they delve deeper into this area?
Well, one of the biggest hurdles is just the sheer complexity of the gut microbiome.
Right? There are trillions of microbes in there. It's mind-boggling.
It is. And they're all interacting with each other in ways we're just starting to understand.
It's like trying to map an entire galaxy.
Exactly. And another challenge is that there's no standardized way to study probiotics.
So different studies are using different strains, different doses, all sorts of variations.
Exactly. Which makes it hard to compare results and draw firm conclusions.
Makes sense. So
Mhm.
we need more consistency in the research.
Absolutely. And of course, safety is always a top priority.
Right. We don't want to cause any unintended harm.
Exactly. While probiotics are generally considered safe, we need to be careful, especially for people with compromised immune systems.
That makes sense. And what about those genetically modified probiotics? Are there any concerns there?
Definitely. We need to make sure they're stable, effective, and safe. And there are ethical considerations, too. Messing with the organisms that live inside us.
It's definitely something to think about. We have to be cautious and responsible with this kind of technology.
Absolutely. But overall, it's a really exciting field with so much potential.
I agree. It seems like we're just scratching the surface of what we can learn about probiotics and their role in health and disease.
Exactly. There's so much more to discover.
Yeah, it really does feel like we're on the edge of something big here.
It does, doesn't it? This whole idea of personalized medicine,
Yeah.
you know, really tailoring treatments to the individual.
Exactly. And it seems like the gut microbiome is going to play a huge role in that.
Absolutely. The more we learn about it, the more we realize just how important it is for our overall health.
It's like we've been ignoring this whole universe inside of us for so long.
And now we're finally starting to pay attention.
So what does this all mean for the average person? Someone who's not a scientist but wants to make healthy choices.
Well, I think the biggest takeaway is that knowledge is power. Do your research, be an informed consumer. Talk to your doctor.
It's about taking charge of your health.
Exactly. And remember, this research is still evolving. What we know today might change tomorrow. So stay curious, stay informed.
That can be a bit overwhelming though, right? Trying to keep up with all the latest findings.
I know it can. But that's where your healthcare provider comes in. They can help you navigate all the information and make the best decisions for you.
Right. It's about finding those trusted sources.
Exactly. This has been such a fascinating conversation.
I know, right? We've covered so much ground, from grilling to personalized probiotics and everything in between.
It's amazing to think about all the possibilities.
It really is. And to our listeners out there, I'll leave you with this thought. Imagine a world where we can analyze your gut microbiome, pinpoint the probiotics that will thrive in your body, and create a personalized plan to help you prevent or even fight cancer.
Wow, that's a powerful image.
It is. It's the future we're working towards. And it's a future filled with hope and incredible potential.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thanks for joining us, everyone, on this deep dive into the world of probiotics and cancer. Keep learning, keep exploring, and keep those good bacteria thriving.